We're joined now by Major Applewhite, as Major is joining us, the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach here at U of H. And first off, welcome to Houston. Happy to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I feel like I'm saying that to everybody today, and we're going to go through a few of the position players in a second. But before we do that, what drew you to U of H? What made you want to come to Houston?
Well, number one, working for Tom Herman. He's someone I've known for quite a while. Just a great trust factor. Someone I've always respected ever since I was a player. And then as I started to see who he was interviewing and putting together on the staff, to me, as I've always said, it's not so much where you are, it's who you're with. And I'm glad to be a part of this 10-man staff.
Now, of course, National Signing Day is all about the recruiting and bringing in the players, and how the list breaks down and all of that. And you've been in Texas for a while, played at UT. You've had a couple of coaching stops in Texas as well. How's that helped you in recruiting it over your career? I know that here you didn't have a whole lot of time to really put that expertise to practice, but have you seen that Texas tie really help you in recruiting throughout your career?
Well, in everything that we do, it's all about relationships, regardless of the business that we're in. How we carry ourselves, how we present ourselves, but the relationships that we've had with the high school coaches, whether it's been Rice, the University of Texas, and now Houston, that's something that we rely upon heavily. And developing relationships across the state of Texas, whether it be in East Texas, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Central Texas, it's all come to fruition for all these guys, and we're excited about this class we're able to sign. We're also excited about continuing that in the 16 class as well.
Now, whenever first-year coaches come in, all the fans want to know, what's the team going to look like? How's the defense going to run? What's the offense going to look like? And I think that people have an idea, but I want to hear from you. What do you want the offense to look like next season?
Well, to me, there's two different conversations. There's what football coaches talk about, and then there's what you tell your fans. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take care of the football. It's ball security. You don't see teams turn the ball over 3, 4, 5 times and lose and win games. So we're going to take care of the football. We're going to be physical. It's a fight. It's a 4-quarter fight. We're going to be physical in the run game. We're going to be physical in the passing game. We're going to run the football. That's something that has stood the test of time. We've seen many guys and throw it all the time offenses, and very seldom do they get above 7-5, 8-5, and compete for championships. And that's why we're here. That's a principle that has stood the test of time. It'll be here long after I'm dead. But we want out to at the same time have balance in what we do, and we define balance as being able to win the game both ways. If we have to throw it a bunch to win, if we have to run it a bunch to win, whatever we have to do, that's what balance is for us. So that's the principles of football, things, again, that I've said stood the test of time. I've learned some great things working with guys like Joe Pendry, Coach Saban, Coach Greg Robinson, obviously Coach Brown. You have to be able to run the football and take the opponent's will away from them through a 4-quarter battle. Now, what's it going to look like? There's a lot of different styles. I saw Georgia Tech go all the way down the ACC championship, take Florida State down the wire, running a wishbone offense. I've seen a fast break offense in Oregon get all the way to the national championship game. But when you break it down at the end, you've got to be able to run the ball. So what is our style going to look like? We're going to be a shotgun, no-huddle, up-tempo offense that puts an emphasis on running the ball non-traditionally, whether we're running it with wideouts, quarterbacks, or your traditional tailback, creating explosives through our play action and off of our base runs.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to be happy to hear that, but I got to ask you, did you ever imagine whenever you're the quarterback, Major Applewhite, saying that you have to run the football to win?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been there since Vince Lombardi. I mean, that's what you see. And we saw it in the Super Bowl in second one. Let's run the ball.
Let's go through a few of the players that you have coming in that you'll have an opportunity to work closely with. And we'll start with the quarterback, Adam Scholes, coming over from Utah. And talked to Coach Herman earlier about him. And, somebody that's coming in and probably going to have a chance to at least try to compete and have a chance to play.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing you want to do is you have develop depth at your quarterback position. And Adam's a guy who he was 2-1 in the 3 starts that he had there at Utah. He had multiple games in which he played in. He was a walk-on from Wisconsin who played in a single-wing offense and worked his way all the way into a starting position. So he's a guy that we wanted to have to develop some depth and some competition there with Greg at the quarterback position, and to have 2 guys that have seen live bullets, taken snaps, whether it's the Pac-12 or our conference, is very important. I've lived that life. I've watched that movie when you've got one guy with experience and one guy who hasn't played. So that was the first priority for us, was to bring in 2 guys that have got the shine off, so to speak, and aren't intimidated and nervous out there taking their snaps. And he's a great disciplined kid. Coach Orlando, Todd Orlando from Utah State, obviously being in the same state, has seen him play, and he's a hell of a competitor.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is about that experience, so I'm glad that you brought it up, seeing a difference between somebody who has it, somebody who doesn't have it, and being a coach, you see things a little bit differently. Fill us in. What do you see differently when you see somebody who has, a few games experience to not having any at all?
Well, it's like anything we do, regardless whether it's your job or my job. We're usually better week 2 than we are week 1, and the more at bats you have, the better you get. The learning curve, whatever it is that we're trying to do, whether we're trying to learn how to play golf or trying to learn how to bowl or whatever, your second round is going to be better than your first round. And to have someone who has played in these games, played in high pressure situations at Oregon on the road, which was, I believe, was a touchdown game, that means so much. The experience, the game experience. I don't think he'll be intimidated getting behind center if he has to.
We'll move along now to some of the guys that'll be protecting the quarterback spot. You have a lot of them there are 3 of them that are coming in that have good size, 6'5", the average 279, and I guess girth is an important thing to have if you're an offensive lineman.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also want athleticism. You obviously want mass, but you want guys that can stay on their feet unless they're burying people. Guys that can move their feet in pass protection, guys that are in good shape, have length, have flexibility, able to bend. Josh Jones is a tremendous athlete. He's a great basketball player. A lot of guys, because of the high school that he came from there in Bush, have a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of comparisons drawn to Russell Okung. But he is a guy who he will continue to develop his body. He will continue to get bigger and stronger, but it starts with the base athleticism.
On paper, probably the biggest one that you have coming in, but moving along now to William Noble, 6'4", 280. He's from Leander, Texas, and, he's coming off an injury. He had a season cut short, but have an opportunity to rebound and get recovered by the time he comes in.
Right, and sometimes those things you can't help. But Will Noble is a 4.2. I've never heard of that. 4.2 GPA. Certainly not in my household. But he's a tremendously bright kid. He's had some flexibility to be able to play a guard and center position. That's something that you don't find very often in recruiting class. You'll find a guy that plays guard. You'll find a guy that plays tackle. But for DA, you'll have a guy that can play both guard and center. Gives you some flexibility there in your offensive line.
Whenever you're out recruiting the offensive lineman and you watch him play at a certain position, do you say, okay, for certain players, okay, we're going to project him to be where he's at, but for example, William Noble, somebody who has that versatility, it gives you a lot of options to move around the line.
Yeah, it's no baseball. If you have a guy that can play multiple spots in the field, it gives you flexibility with your lineup, and that's something that he'll give us on the interior portion of our offensive line.
All right, moving along now, Jared Williams won back-to-back state championships at Cedar Hill, and talking to Coach Herman at the beginning of our webcast, he talked about bringing in champions, and Jared's exactly that.
Right, you don't wake up a champion. It's something that's developed. These are habits that are created, and Joey McGuire has done a phenomenal job over a long period of time. He has not been a one-hit wonder. That Cedar Hill program has consistently played with Longhorn speed. That's their mascot, of course, but he is something that he instills in those kids, and you see it when you go to spring practice. You see it when you're in the weight room, and then you obviously see it there at Jerry World almost every year. Those guys are playing for it, and so those winning habits are something that will fit into our culture and what Coach Herman's establishing here. He's a guy who's also, again, you don't see him on the ground unless he's got another guy underneath him. He can stay on his feet. He's got great balance and athleticism, length in his hands, the ability to bend, flex, and strike and play low to high, and that's something we need from our offensive linemen if we want to be able to run the football.
You talked about Scholes, the quarterback, having the experience at Utah to kind of be ready, be prepared if needed, and it's different playing in high school. But Jared Williams, he's not going to be intimidated by the moment. You talked about playing at Jerry's World and playing back-to-back state title games. I mean, he's probably played some of the biggest games of his life already.
Absolutely, that's big for him. Whether it be an out-of-state game against another large high school from another city or another state. And he won't, be shocked by that. He won't be overwhelmed by that. He's a big young man. I don't know if you was mentioned earlier, size 20 shoe. So he's going to grow into that. Right now he looks like a young pup, but as he fills out with Coach McKnight in the weight room, that athleticism with his frame is going to be something fun to watch.
One of the questions I like to ask the coaches is how quickly do you want to get the players in? And, of course, different positions going to have different grading curves, but to be a quarterback at this level, and it's different with Scholes, and to be an offensive lineman at this level, coming from high school, what are the things that they have to really get ahead of the curve and have to pretty accelerated in terms of the learning pace?
Yeah, typically you talk about the offensive line as a developmental position. Very seldom are guys able to come in with the athleticism, the know-how of a college football scheme, and the body type and the makeup that they need to be able to pound for 12 straight weeks. So that type of position is typically a developmental position. From a quarterback standpoint, especially a fifth-year quarterback, he's been in 2 or 3 different systems already. So he's learned 2 and 3 different books. So sometimes it's just calling an apple an orange. Whatever you call Trey, we call trio. Whatever you call trio, we call trips. And so he's just got to learn the terminology. As I said, walked on from Wisconsin all the way to Utah. So he had to get in that car and go a long way. It meant a lot to him. He stayed there. He went through some adversity. And that's one thing that we look for in recruiting is how much adversity has this guy had to overcome in his life? Has everything been handed to him? Has he been in a program where they've had the most pristine locker rooms, the best weight room, the nicest teachers, family situations, all kind of things? And so he's a guy who's, on his own dime decided to go to Utah. So obviously football means something to him. Earned a starting position, was taken away, got back into that situation again. So there's some perseverance and resiliency in that young man. So it's going to be great to have that. And it's going to be great to watch those two guys, Craig and Adam, compete there in the spring. Absolutely, yeah. And as I mentioned, obviously a fifth-year senior at a quarterback position probably has a better chance to play than a true freshman offensive lineman. The noise is a little bit louder at this level up front. What they do there in the summer, though, and as I always tell a guy in recruiting, how soon you play is not my decision. That's your decision. And so how well you prepare yourself, how bad you want it, how bad you want to be here, what you're willing to do extra, whether it be in the film room or in the weight room with Coach McKnight, I can't make you do that. Those are things that you have to do and that you have to want.
All right, well, Coach Applewhite, we appreciate you taking the time. I know you've been on the phones today talking to a few of these
I haven't
players.
been talking at all or yelling at anything off season. My voice sounds great, right?
Yeah, it sounds outstanding. It sounds outstanding. Well rested. We appreciate you taking the time.